Welcome to our webinar on what is VMI. Today we'll be covering the fundamentals of vendor managed inventory and how it can make your business more competitive. At the end of the session, we'll be holding a short Q&A session, so please do send your questions through via the chat function and we'll answer as many questions as we can at the end of the presentation. My name is Robert Simpson and I am the Marketing Director at TrueCommerce, and I'm joined by my colleague Philippe Funken, who is going to take us through the webinar today. At this point, I will pass the reins over to Philippe and let him introduce himself.
Hello and thank you, Robert. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar on what is VMI. I am Philippe Funken. I'm in charge of sales engagement for TrueCommerce Datalliance Europe across the EMEA and Asia Pacific region. So, as just mentioned by Robert, we'll take you today across the basics of VMI, starting with our objective and therefore vision. We at TrueCommerce Datalliance want through our VMI solution to help enhance collaboration between suppliers and distribution partners across the whole supply chain network to improve both supply chain key performance indicators and ultimately the bottom line. Today, we will talk about what is VMI, why we believe VMI is a good thing for you, why we also believe it is smart to trust TrueCommerce Datalliance for your VMI program, and finally, what it takes, and we'll say it takes little, to start and initiate a proper VMI program. So, starting with what is VMI, well, vendor managed inventory is the process where the supplier generates orders based on mutually agreed objectives and demand information sent by the customer, so the distributor or the retailer in this case. Now VMI, it's a pretty straightforward and yet very powerful concept in that it flips the normal order of things. So looking at it more closely, the magic behind the TrueCommerce Datalliance VMI process is its simplicity. So looking at this chart here, the number one basically is the fact that we will receive from the supplier the product catalog, and at the same time the sales history from the distributor. This will allow us to establish the foundation for the future ordering pattern. Once we have prepared this setup, so receiving, again, this product catalog and the sales history, well, we will, on a daily basis, receive from the distributor or the retailer, and this is number two, an inventory report or product activity file. Basically, this is what the distributor started the day with, and the stocking position at the end of the day. Number three, we will receive that information and we will use it together with the historical activity to calculate forecasted demand and generate a suggested order. This suggested order is then sent for reviewing to the supplier or the planner or the customer service agent. And once the planner works through any exception alerted by our system, then this planner will be in a position to launch the order, which will then triggers, and this is number six, the distribution or the sending of a purchase order, electronic purchase order message, and electronic purchase order acknowledgement. Now, a little remark about the way we send those messages. Basically, this is the suggested order in this case, but we also see different processes. If you look at the title of the slides, we talk about the flow for traditional VMI. Now, TrueCommerce Datalliance is able to accommodate any flavor from purely vendor managed inventory, and we like to call it collaborative managed inventory, to CMI, hence collaborative managed inventory, where we see a slightly more complex workflow where there is further exchange between distributor and supplier to vet on distributor side the suggested order before it is actually launched by the supplier customer service. So again, we can think about all levels of collaboration, from the simplest down to the most collaborative one across the supply chain. Now, maybe another way to look at it is to think about how a distributor places an order. So typically, how it happens when you don't have a proper collaboration process in place and a solution to wrap this into a collaborative communication system. Looking distributor, he she will place the order based on a limited set of information. So as we've seen, the sales of the day, the known inventory, the put away, so actually the management of the warehouse, and combining this set of information, then an order will be actually created and sent over to the supplier, not taking into consideration maybe the reality of the supplier at that time. So what are the events? So the reality on the supplier's local market, thinking about geography, geographical events linked to seasonality or promotions. What is the lead time? There may be an agreed upon lead time, but this may change over the course of time due to some production strains changes, material sourcing, whatever. What is the conditioning? It might change also. You used to order by 12, now it comes by 15. What is the catalog? Has it been updated? When the distributor places an order, are all the item numbers up to date so that the order is properly received and interpreted by the receiving end on the supplier side. So we believe that without all of this information, trading partners unavoidably encounter typical issues that are stock outs resulting in probably supply chain issues at the end of the day, bullwhip, but also lost sales, which is the most problematic issue. Poor product mix. You don't have a range of products that you need to address the market needs. Inefficient transportation. I think about FMCG specifically, where transportation is key, but also other sectors where making sure that you optimize transport results into important savings, or on the other hand, additional cost. Emergency orders. I don't get much visibility. I don't know what is happening currently on my partner's side, and therefore I need to place very last short notice order. Misaligned goals. You want to drive start your strategy together with your partners. When these are trusted strategic partners, you want to make sure that you follow the same approach. Excessive returns, in general, poor visibility of demand, obsolete inventory, where there is a difficulty in phasing in and out the new and the old products, and additional admin work and dull work due to bad data and old data involved in the process. So we think that by sharing all of this information and adding new one linked to, for example, product lifecycle management. When should I start introducing the new product range, a new generation of product? Adding more live information about real product availability at the moment where the order is placed. Adding more information about load building and therefore transportation optimization. Adding more information on returns so that I can better manage them and at the end of the day reduce the occurrence of returns. While combining all of this into one same system will simply result, and this is very pragmatic, into better orders. And one step beyond, a better order for those partners will result in lower supply chain cost and more sales. Now, looking at the figures and the benefits that we see for customers, and when I say customers, the figures you will see now, actually the result of the analysis of 1,000 live customer locations, so ship to, ship from location, and where we'll see that involving and collecting data like lead time, item numbers, and overall increased visibility across the supply chain helps us increase turns up to 25%, reduce out of stocks. And all of this data also helps us to lower order touches, minimizing return, which in return will help companies minimize cost and increase sales. So turns, practically, we see an increase of up to 25%, which of course has a huge impact on working capital performance and simply also rationalizing inventory on distributor retailer side. Out of stocks, we see a decrease of up to 31% in average of out-of-stock occurrences, which results, of course, in way less lost sales. The same with order touches. This is also a customer KPI we have here directly. Basically, what it says is that using Datalliance TrueCommerce VMI system reduces the number of times that they need to revise an order drastically. Returns, reduction of approximately 51%, and most importantly, sales. We see an increase in VMI products of up to 25% for most optimized customers. Now, all of this culminates in better business relationship. That's very much what we want at the end of the day, and this is something confirmed by Gartner. I guess many of you know Gartner, and Gartner actually, as a main advice lately, has been repeating this mantra: you companies, your distributors, your suppliers, need to explore more collaborative methods for working with partners across your supply chain networks, as well as connecting to your suppliers and customers. You need to identify processes and systems to allow close integration to elevate customer service metrics. And that's, I would say, very much what we do with VMI. Now, looking at what it takes to put VMI in place, TrueCommerce Datalliance uses a replicable methodology that will make sure that you get fast return and fast results. Basically, and this is a bit of a spoiler with the 6 to 12 weeks writing and appearing right now, well, every column in here represents 1 week. We will start with a system setup on the supplier side. Then the next step will be to establish connectivity, preferably EDI, of course. Then we will collect information about product master definition, and we will upload it into the system. We will establish connectivity with the distributor, configure the application to make sure that we respect the mutual objectives set by the trading partners, so for each and every stock keeping unit. Start testing the inbound file. And there we are already in a position where we have live daily data, so we will receive the product activity file mentioned in the flow before. Then for both will be the time to validate the data as it is displayed by the system. We will start testing the EDI in and outbound traffic on the supply side. The same with the outbound on the distributor side. And there we are technically live. We will name that to review, suggested transfer. We will tweak the replenishment model in place. We will train the users at the end of the setup. And finally, when we can validate the results, we will launch this and basically have the first orders live. All of this, as I said, so each column represents 1 week, but all of this should represent an average 6 to 12 weeks to have your company's VMI template with a first supplier to distributor relationship. The next relationship, so the next onboarding of additional distributors will come at a much faster pace, so we can actually onboard a handful of new relationships over a week time. So that's a very fast, very seamless process. Now you may think, is VMI made for me? Will it be beneficial to me? Well, we see, considering the very large range of customers we see that VMI will be beneficial to any trading relationship where supplier sales made to stock goods to a stocking distributor retailer. There might be a couple more conditions. We will see them later. They're technical mostly, but anytime there is such a relationship between strategic partners, then there is space for collaborative replenishment. What is needed for VMI to work? I've mentioned it in the introduction very little with the approach that TrueCommerce Datalliance takes to it. Essentially, we will need trust and long-term partnership. It is important. It is not just a nice way of putting it. You will need to be willing to share some information with your partner. Typically, it's not extremely confidential information, but you will need to establish still a daily connection with a long-term partnership. You don't want to have a one-off trade with this partner. You want to make sure that the partnership supports your mid to long-term strategy towards your market. Then you will need to have some basic technological capabilities. On the supplier side, you will need to be able to establish secure connectivity. You will need to provide us with your master data. You will need to be able to receive electronic purchase orders, and you will need to help us, at least at the beginning, to configure the application. We did not talk about customized application. We talk about configure it simply. TrueCommerce Datalliance VMI solution is a 100% cloud-based, software as a service. So there's very little involved in terms of infrastructure, and we mostly interface with your system, so we don't need any kind of installation on-premise. That also will usually simplify all the security and the IT-related aspects, and will make also your investment very predictable because you don't need to put hardware in place. On the distributor or retailer side, you will need to be able to provide a daily product activity file. So what was mentioned before in the flow, that's basically a very limited set of data that will help us build a clear picture of what is the net quantity available on any given business day. You will need to be in a position to receive electronic purchase order acknowledgements. And we will need, at the beginning only, to receive from you, ideally 52 weeks of sales history. We can work with less. We need to build a realistic view of what has been the reordering pattern in the past. Now, you may think about what format is needed. Again, in terms of data transport, we privilege EDI. In terms of format, we would privilege EDIFACT or flat file. But given the fact that TrueCommerce Datalliance has trading partners active on any geography, in any industry, we also use to very sophisticated partners and to very technically rudimentary partners. So we have put in place a lot of alternative methodologies that will allow us to serve and accommodate the needs and capacities of less sophisticated trading partners again. Okay, so to summarize the benefits now, and I think we're slowly reaching the end of our basic presentation. Well, as a supplier, thanks to VMI, I will first and foremost increase my sales. And I think the reason for that is basically a result of a combination of factors. Certainly, the fact that out of sales will be drastically reduced plays a huge role in that. By gaining more visibility of my customers and customer demand, I will be able to send the right product at the right time in the right quantity, so that basically the right product is always to be found on the shelf. As mentioned, the out of stocks reduction plays a huge role in that. I will therefore also streamline my supply chain assets, producing the right amount of goods at the right time at the right for the right customer. And I will most importantly consolidate the distributor relationships. It is easier to work on long-term plans and onboard your distributors or retailers in your strategy when you deliver better service to them. And that's very much what vendor inventory is about. Enhance the customer service level so that you can both align on the same targets and reach them. As a distributor or retailer, I will increase my inventory turns by up to 25%, therefore drastically enhance my working capital performance. This will also potentially free up cash and space for a wider range of products from the same performing supplier. Let's be honest, that's also the kind of agreements that we see happening after implementing VMI. And we think that's basically a very virtuous way to consider collaboration. I will drastically reduce the order processing time and effort involved Basically, once you've set up the collaboration, the foundation of your collaboration and the joint targets you want to reach with your supplier for each stock keeping unit or for each part of the catalog, you don't need to place orders anymore. You need to make sure in a traditional VMI system, again, where you don't need to vet a second time the order that is suggested by the system to your supplier, well, you don't need to take care of that. Basically, we want to turn the people who used to do this on the distributor retailer side into added value personnel. So it's not about admin work anymore. It's really about making sure that you manage the portfolio and what is on the shelf at its best. Thirdly, you can expect more supply attention and commitment. Lead time is very much a topic of discussion between supplier and distributor. We believe that granting more visibility into your supply chain to your supplier will automatically result in having the supplier paying more attention to your needs and being in a better position to guarantee that the agreed upon lead time and general conditions will be respected. Now a little word maybe about who we are and how we think we differentiate ourselves from the rest. So as I said, why we think it's a smart idea to partner with TrueCommerce Datalliance. Certainly the most important point is that we keep on investing massively into the enhancement of collaboration between suppliers and distributors, improving overall supply chain key performance indicators as mentioned, and user efficiency. VMI should not add to your work, to your effort. It should actually bring more advantages and less work at the end of the day. Second, we provide tailor-made holistic support and services. We partner on a daily basis to offer a very inclusive support to both distributors and suppliers and to support and increase your VMI performance day in and day out. Thirdly, we keep on working on a very replicable, seamless, and effortless methodology to not only create the initial VMI template, but also to extend your VMI footprint to leverage the advantages of the VMI process across your trading relationship board. Now, a bit more about TrueCommerce Datalliance itself. Well, we've been doing VMI for 27 years now across all continents. And according to Gartner, we are still the #1 independent VMI solution provider in the world. You see a couple of the other customers. We count over 130 customers across the world. Some of the big names here, but we do count many of those. We manage on a daily basis 23,000 locations, so ship to ship from, combining roughly 25 million SKUs. We deliver, talking about innovation, 3 new software releases on a yearly basis. And this is delivered by the largest workforce that is dedicated to VMI on the planet. Suppliers and both distributors are very much key to this development, and it will be the first input for our product roadmap. We wrap the software with an extended range of service that is part of our standard offering. Important to us is that you stay a customer for a long time and that you extend your VMI footprint across as many of your business partners as possible. And we deliver and report against your performance in specific sessions where we're willing to document and monitor the same performance. Okay, I think we've reached the end of this presentation. I hope that we've answered or we've respected the program that was shortly aligned at the beginning. Now we're ready to take the questions. Robert, back to you.
Thank you for that, Philippe. Now, before we finish, I just want to pick up on some of the questions, like you say, that we've had through today. The first questions we've had through, let's just take a look. Okay, how long does it take to implement VMI? Philippe, can you help us?
Sure, be happy to, and that's a question we hear very often. So obviously an interesting one, and one we have from prospects very often. So we've touched that shortly talking about anything from 6 to 12 weeks for a first VMI template. I think what we haven't mentioned is the effort, and this might be of interest as well for the attendee who kindly asked this question. Think about a supplier, we're looking at 15 to 20 man days of effort, and we follow a critical path. So basically, we I think I hear a loudspeaker in the background. I don't know if it's only me, but you might want to try and mute that one. So we're looking at 15 to 20 man days in order to set up the VMI template. On the distributor side, we're talking about 3 to 5 man days of effort. So talking about seamless, effortless implementation process, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, we've got another one here. Which sectors is VMI traditionally used in?
Well, again, I've mentioned a couple of customers we deal with, but really the model, there's a great fit with FMCG, of course, but the electrical marketplace is also very good. The plumbing marketplace, industry, I haven't mentioned SKF, all the automotive customers we have as well. And by the way, there's very often a belief that VMI would apply mostly to fast-moving goods. It is not true. We also see drastic improvement when it comes to medium and to slow movers as well. So anywhere where you have a trusted relationship between a supplier and a stocking distributor, VMI will bring advantages, even if you already have some collaborative program in place. We've seen huge uptick with large trading partners as well.
Okay, and then I think we've got time for one last one there. Over and above the functionality, what should I look for in a VMI provider?
I think that's a great one. That's the one I was hoping for. There are many flavors, many types of approaches when it comes to setting up some collaboration around replenishment. However, today, nothing beats the fact of onboarding a trusted advisor in the person of a third party. Having a specialist sitting in between, helping from the very beginning, and the very beginning is actually the first discussion. So before there is any business relationship with TrueCommerce Datalliance, we'll be there assessing the feasibility and the advantages you can get. So helping you build a business case for VMI. We will help partners set up a win-win relationship around the VMI process. And then we will keep on monitoring that to enhance the performance. And again, extend the VMI footprint so that the original virtual setup can be leveraged across the board. So again, having a value-added trusted advisor take care of the relationship is key for the success of a long-term VMI program.
Okay, I think that's all we have time for today, but I can see we have a few more questions that have come in. So we will look to follow up all questions with participants after the webinar. Lastly, for anyone who would like a copy of the webinar, we will be sending a link of the recording in the coming days. If you do need to get in touch with TrueCommerce, we have offices in the UK, Ireland, Denmark, Brussels, and the US, and the contact details for each one of these offices can be found above. So it just remains for me to say thank you to everyone who has joined the webinar today. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.